The term brother comes from the Proto-Indo-European, which becomes Latin frater, of the same meaning. Sibling warmth or affection between male siblings has been correlated to some more negative effects. In pairs of brothers, higher sibling warmth is related to more risk-taking behavior, although risk-taking behavior is not related to sibling warmth in any other type of sibling pair. The cause of this phenomenon, in which sibling warmth is only correlated with risk-taking behaviors in brother pairs, still is unclear. This finding does, however, suggest that although sibling conflict is a risk factor for risk-taking behavior, sibling warmth does not serve as a protective factor. The relationship of brothers is laid out with the friendship of brothers has the characteristics found in that of comrades, and in general between people who are like each other, is as much as they belong more to each other, and start with a love for each other from their very birth, and inasmuch as those born to the same parents, and brought up together and similarly educated are more akin in character. And the test of time has been applied most fully and convincingly in their case. For these reasons, it is the job of the older brother to influence the ethics of the younger brother by being a person of good action. Aristotle says by imitating and reenacting the acts of good people, a child becomes habituated to good action. Over time the younger brother will develop the good actions of the older brother as well and be like him. Aristotle also adds this on the matter of retaining the action of doing good once imitated. Once the habits of ethics or immorality become entrenched, they are difficult to break. The good habits that are created by the influence of the older brother become habit in the life of the younger brother and turn out to be seemingly permanent. It is the role of the older brother to be a positive influence on the development of the younger brother's upbringing when it comes to the education of ethics and good actions. When positive characteristics are properly displayed to the younger brother by the older brother, these habits and characteristics are imitated and foster an influential understanding of good ethics and positive actions. Ronald and James Allridge were blood brothers from the same parents. On the night of February 3, 1985, James Allridge and his older brother, Ronald, left their Fort Worth apartment with the intention of robbing a Circle K convenience store. Allridge was carrying a semi-automatic pistol, and Ronald drove Allridge's car. Allridge had previously worked at the Circle K, was familiar with the store's procedures, and knew where the combination to the safe was kept. He also knew the clerk on duty, Brian Clendenin, having worked with him before. At about midnight, Ronald dropped Allridge off around the corner from the targeted store. Clendenin had already closed the store, but admitted Allridge when he asked for change to use the phone. Clendenin made change, and Allridge pretended to use the phone and left to rejoin Ronald. Ronald accused Allridge of chickening out and dropped Allridge off at the store again. Clendenin again let Allridge into the store, but this time Allridge pulled his gun and forced Clendenin into the storeroom. After tying Clendenin's hands behind his back, Allridge emptied the safe. Allridge heard sounds coming from the storeroom and discovered that Clendenin had moved. He made Clendenin get back on his knees, then shot him twice in the back of the head. Allridge and Ronald left, and Clendenin died from the gunshot wounds the next day. In his confession, Ronald Keith Allridge stated that the initial shot, which was fired through the glass door, was the shot which startled him. At trial, however, counsel for Ronald Keith Allridge claimed that Ronald Keith Allridge was startled instead by the shot fired accidentally by Milton Yarmon. Yarmon, in fact, had given a statement to the police which corroborated Allridge's version of the sequence of shots during the robbery, wherein Yarmon said that his gun accidentally discharged as he leapt over the restaurant counter during the robbery. Yarmon also stated that he then heard another shot fire, which both parties agree was the shot by Ronald Keith Allridge that killed Otto. Prior to trial, the government informed counsel for Ronald Keith Allridge that Yarmond had given a statement to the police. Allridge's counsel requested a copy of Yarmond's statement. While awaiting trial, the Allridge brothers were sought for questioning in other murders, in which Ronald subsequently confessed to 13 armed robberies and the murder of Buddy Joe Webster. In addition, James was connected to the murder of Brian Clendenin. Both were ordered to stand trial for capital murder. The Yarmond brothers cooperated with the police, saying they didn't know Ronald was going to shoot someone. Although the Yarmond brothers were initially indicted for capital murder, they were ultimately only convicted of aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon. Clarence received a 20-year sentence, while Milton received a 30-year sentence. They have both since been released from prison. While awaiting execution, James took up painting, and he gained some publicity for the colorful portraits he made by selling them on the internet. Ronald attempted to appeal his sentence multiple times. In 1992, he successfully argued for a stay of execution, and a new execution date was set for June 1995. In March 1987, James Vernon Allridge was found guilty of capital murder and sentenced to death. James Vernon Allridge's judgment and sentence were affirmed on direct appeal to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals on November 13, 1991. After his petition for a writ of certiorari from the appeals court was denied, James Vernon Allridge filed a state habeas application raising 5 claims. Upon recommendations of the state trial court, the Court of Criminal Appeals denied relief to James Vernon Allridge. James Vernon Allridge then filed a federal petition for writ of habeas corpus raising 4 claims of constitutional error. A federal magistrate recommended that James Vernon Allridge's petition be denied. A U.S. district judge issued a memorandum opinion adopting the magistrate's report, except for an issue regarding the standard of review, and denied relief on all of James Vernon Allridge's claims. However, the district court granted James Vernon Allridge's request for a certificate of appealability. On appeal, the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals affirmed the district court's denial of habeas corpus relief on July 15, 2003. After the appellate court denied his motion for a hearing, James Vernon Allridge filed a petition for writ of certiorari with the U.S. Supreme Court on November 20, 2003. The Supreme Court denied James Vernon Allridge's petition for certiorari review on March 22, 2004. Ronald and his brother had evidently been responsible for a string of robberies and murders between 1984 and 1985. Allridge's first murder victim was Lorenzo Nealand, a student he gunned down in high school at the age of 15. He served less than a 7-year sentence. He later confessed to killing Buddy Joe Webster Jr., his boss and manager of Krusty's Pizza in Wedgwood. Ronald Keith Allridge appealed his case with the claim that prosecutors should have revealed an accomplice's statement. He said that a shot was fired just before which startled him and caused his gun to go off accidentally. The federal courts rejected his appeal in both 1989 and 1992. Following this was another rejection by the U.S. Supreme Court on May 15, 1995. He then filed for a 30-day reprieve and clemency, which was also denied in addition to his request for a 1,000-year sentence the day before his execution. All appeals were denied and Ronald Keith Allridge was executed on June 8, 1995. Prison officials stated that for an unknown reason they had difficulty finding a vein in Allridge's left arm. Therefore, against the normal lethal injection procedure, his execution was carried out with only 1 needle. On June 8, 1995, after Texas Governor George W. Bush denied him a 30-day reprieve and clemency, Ronald was executed by lethal injection at the Huntsville unit. He declined a last meal. When asked if Ronald Keith Allridge had any last words, Ronald replied, "No, I'm not going to say anything." His execution was the 10th in Texas in the year of 1995. And the 95th overall in Texas since executions were brought back in the United States. James Vernon Allridge was executed by lethal injection in Texas on August 26, 2004. For his final meal, James Vernon Allridge requested a double meat bacon cheeseburger with lettuce, tomato and salad dressing. He also asked for shoestring or crinkle-cut French fries with ketchup and banana pudding or banana pudding ice cream and watermelon or white seedless grapes. In his final words, James Vernon, speaking slowly and quietly with his voice halting at times, Allridge thanked his family and friends for loving him and expressed remorse. "I am sorry. I really am. You, Brian's sister, thanks for your love. It meant a lot. Shane, I hope he finds peace. I am sorry I destroyed you all's life. Thank you for forgiving me. To the moon and back. I love you all. I leave you all as I came, in love." 9 minutes later, at 6:22 p.m. Central Daylight Time, he was pronounced dead. James Vernon Allridge was the 12th person executed in Texas that year and the 325th since the state resumed capital punishment in 1982. 6 years after the U.S. Supreme Court lifted a national death penalty ban. Both totals lead the nation. Thank you for watching Death Row.